So we're sitting by the South Shore in beautiful downtown Barrie's waterfront on a very brisk morning, and I get to finally have this conversation with Shannon Murree. Shannon, thank you for joining me on my show today. What a wonderful day, and I'm so glad you chose your happy places down by the waterfront on such a cold day.
It
but
is.
Here we are.
It could be worse, it's Barrie.
Oh, I know. So I'm going to cut to something real quick, though, because you just got back from someplace, and you met some pretty cool people. So, and this was probably like a really cool lifelong dream, right? So just tell me this real quick, and then we're going to cut into more questions. Go ahead.
Sure.
Tell me.
I just came back from LA and Hawaii and hanging out with people the likes of Dane Cook and Janet Jackson and Thea Austin and Jeremy Hotz and friends. I can call them friends.
I saw this picture of you with Janet Jackson, and all I've got is like, you know, all these songs going through my head, and I'm like, okay, am I allowed to sing them out loud, or do I have to kind of keep it in that I like some Janet Jackson songs?
Yeah, it was actually a lifelong dream. She was performing in Hawaii back in 2001, and I was going through some things as a single mom then, and I wasn't able to go. So it was kind of serendipitous that she was doing her 30th year anniversary for Rhythm Nation in Hawaii, and I just had been saving, and I'm like, I'm doing it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going to do it this time.
Well, thank you for making it back here at record-breaking time to meet me today. I know you got in at like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So, Shannon, tell me a little bit about you, because I know the viewers have probably seen you around at charity events and things like that, or might have seen you, some of your listings in that. But tell me a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Aurora, actually not that far from here, so in the York Region area. And then I moved away from the country for a little bit because I was a dance choreographer in my other life. And that brought me to Mexico, where I was performing at all these different resorts. And that's actually where my story starts.
Amazing. So let's get to that, and we'll unpack that a little bit. What brought you to Barrie? How'd you wind up in Barrie?
Affordability as a single mother. When I left my first husband, I was a single mom. My son was 1, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and I could not, there's no way I could have afforded moving to Aurora when I came back, and my grandparents had moved to Stroud, actually, so I moved back to this location, and then I was able to get myself on a list for Simcoe affordable housing, and be able to secure affordable housing for my children and I.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's such a great thing, isn't it? It really is the incredible ability to be able to do that, because it's a struggle to get in there, isn't it?
Yeah, the waiting lists I hear now are even worse than what they were way back when, like 20 some odd years ago, which is unfortunate because there definitely is that need, but I had nothing, so I don't know how I could have kept my pride and start over, essentially, is what I was doing, starting over with nothing, because I left everything behind, and that's how I came back.
Well, let's go into this, because it is going to take up a lot of the show, and there's a lot of information here.
Right.
And I love that you have such a big heart and are so willing to have this conversation with me, because there are a lot of people who I believe will learn something today. So let's go back to that choreography life. Let's go back to where you were and, where things began with this nightmare and journey.
Nightmare and dream at the same time. I had the opportunity to work in Mexico. It was only supposed to be a 6-month contract working at the resorts. I didn't know anybody, and I've been studying dancing since I was 3, and I just took that opportunity because I'm not a shoulda, coulda, woulda person.
Nope.
And I did it, and again, not knowing anybody, not knowing the language, and then I traveled all over different places in Mexico, and then the final part was Cancun, and that's where I met my first husband.
So let's go to that part. Where did that happen, or how did that, progress from, the relationship that you had hoped it would be?
Yeah, I was his boss, I guess you could kind of say. We were
Aren't all women? They really are. Come on.
I don't go there. It's a partnership. It's a partnership. I will never dog men, ever. Okay. Never, never, never. I have boys, so never. So he was on the entertainment team, and I was the dance choreographer, and he was kind of chasing me and courting me or whatever, and I just wasn't interested. And I just didn't think he was kind of my type, and then he just kind of wore me down with his charm, and there you go.
So you're like this Paula Abdul who's got this incredible charm and dance, and he's slowly trying to, get closer to you. At what point does it become the relationship and everything goes from there? Just continue with that.
It was really like a fairy tale kind of thing. Like I was living a dream, here I was like living in another country, and I met this wonderful man, and it was just, I was promised everything, just come live with me, and then let's get married, and let's have children. And it was just everything that a woman or someone wants, and he said all the right things.
At what point does it go from that and you seeing signs or signals, or did you just not see them or push them away? What were the signals and what happened?
It's so bizarre because I pride myself on being a strong woman. I never thought I had been in an abusive relationship before. It was very subtle. Other people saw it in terms of the controlling thing, and I don't know if I was in denial. It was like, he was just so good at manipulation that it like so smooth, like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, and it really, I honestly didn't see it for the first year. I swear, like everyone's like, oh, you must have seen it. I'm like, I honestly did not see any signs. And then only after our son was born did I see the control. Everything changed. It was like night and day.
Yeah.
It was like, if you, like the images that I have in my head of how he could be so evil, and like in his eyes, and just like if I didn't respond, he would even go so far as punching himself in the face, right? It was just so
There's
scary.
This sense for me that there's not just a psychotic behavior and a controlling, narcissistic type behavior. I hate asking this, but it's only because I'm hoping that you can share this as well. How did the violence progress, and how did the physical aspect of it progress?
More controlling he came, because I wasn't having any of it. And something so simple as I would go to the grocery store, which was just around the corner, and it was owned by a mom. And like in Mexico, it's so quaint, it's like somebody would take their house and convert it. You would go get tortillas or something, and if I took too long, he'd be, well, you're having an affair, or he would just be so unreasonable. And it would just escalate because I was defending myself. And so and then I would walk away, which was bad, because then he would grab my arm, or he would say, well, I'm not done with this conversation. And I mean, I didn't know what to do. It was just, and then when it started escalating, he would just get more angry and more possessive and more controlling. And it just, I felt helpless. I was afraid. I was embarrassed.
He was physically violent.
But then he would be so apologetic, and then the makeup, would be so great, and I was like, well, we need to go to counseling. Like, this isn't acceptable.
And how did that go?
We never went.
Yeah.
It was empty
Takes
promises.
two.
Yeah, it was empty promises. And it was backwards there too. I mean, I'm glad to see that policing and things have changed in terms of, support for women. But when I went to the police station, they actually put me in the back of the truck, and they brought me back home, and they said, take care of your property. And then I got a bigger beating.
So, and trying to wrap my head around that sort of thing, right? I'm no perfect man, but I'll tell you, doing those sort of things with a partner is mind-blowing. And to think about somebody hurting you like that.
Yeah.
I can't say that I can imagine it, because I can't, and I don't want to imagine it, to be honest. And when I do, I'm thinking about where you are, where you were in that position, and being basically picked back up and taken back into that pit, that hell.
Yep.
Right? And it's a very North American mentality too, that if a man caught a woman actually having an affair, he's going to kill the man. But in Europe, they're going to kill the woman, right? Or in South America, it's the woman. It's always the woman's fault outside of North America. In North America, we tend to attack differently. And so that relationship you were in, being forced back into it, How do you cope? How do you cope and find any sort of happiness in that spot, or can you?
It's the best acting of your life. And I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. I didn't know anybody, and I'm in another country, so I'm really at his beck and call. And when I said that I was going to leave, he said I could leave, but I wasn't able to take our son.
So he's got the tool of using your son for manipulation. He's trying to control you through that. Everything is about control. Everything is as narcissistic as it really gets with all of that too. And I think people need to understand too, narcissism can be a man or a woman. There are narcissistic women, but people don't know that. But in this particular situation, there are real signs. So where do you finally get help, and how far did it have to go?
Sorry, I'm chuckling because I'm the empath. I am the epitome of an empath.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I am an empath, and I know that I was targeted, and I give people the benefit of the doubt. When I met his family and, you know, how hard his mother was, you know, even when he slapped me across the face in front of his mother, and she said, "You don't talk back to your husband." So I got no support, even from the family.
Even after their full witness to the abuse?
Nothing. I was to shut up and put up, and that's where I, you know, learned about different cultures and just, I mean, it's in everyone, I'm for sure, but I was literally held hostage, and I didn't know what to do. And the only thing that I could think of was come back to Canada and make a better life. And like I said, the best acting of my life. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, I don't know how she knew, but it was my birthday, and she put a plane ticket in my birthday card.
So you get to the airport. Did you pack? To not have any signs?
I had a suitcase, and what I did was I said, I'm going to go back to Canada. Obviously, you're under a lot of stress here. I'm going to go back to Canada. Why don't I get a house? Why don't I make a better life for us? You know, it'll be a better way of life for you in Canada and for us and for the sake of our family. And he said he knew when he hugged me that that would be the last time I would see him.
And he didn't try to keep you there?
Again, I lied my way through it. That I said, you know, because that he could have kept my son.
How long did this go on for?
A year. I slept with a knife under my pillow in our son's room. That's how afraid I was. I was afraid that he would come in the middle of the night. He was just so irrational. Even if I don't do anything, even if I left a cube of sugar or something on the counter, and it's just not how I wanted to live my life. And when I knew that I was pregnant with our daughter, the realization for me was, I don't want our son to grow up thinking that this is an acceptable behavior on how to treat people.
Of course.
And I didn't want my daughter to think that that's how she ought to be treated.
How far along were you, and did he know that you were pregnant when you were leaving?
Oh, he knew I was pregnant. Okay. Because I said, I think we have a better health care in Canada, so why don't I go set the way? And I'm telling you, anything that I could think of to make it sound reasonable. Yeah. And believe it or not, I said, you are welcome to come to her birth. When I came back to Canada, sorry, let me backtrack, but when I came back, and we were talking on the phone, and I said, you're welcome to come for her birth, but we're done.
Well, it's almost lie or die in your situation.
It was lie or die. It was lie or die. And also, too, like I didn't want my daughter, I wanted to make sure he was going to sign the statement of claim, because even if there's no support in custody from Mexico to Canada, like I did everything on my own. There's no compliance between the two countries. So I raised those two kids on my own. And I just wanted to make sure that my daughter would never be unsure about who her dad was as she got older, and you know, that she would make sure that that their dad was their dad. And
sure. So you get back to Canada, you're trying to reestablish, you're going through the wonderful red tape of trying to get into housing and a home and take care of your children. How did that go? Did you have any further contact from him? Did he try to get you back to Mexico? Did he try to get the kids? Did he try to do anything after that? Or did he just kind of let go?
He knew that my strong family connection here, I'm very family based, and he didn't try. Outside of when he visited, he apologized and said he would go to counseling and try to make everything better.
Sure.
But, I mean, it was all empty promises before, so why would I go back? I had the children to think of.
So what was your first real turning point then once you got back? Where did things start to get better? Because there's so much heartbreak in all of this, and just bone-crushing pain of everything you went through. You pulled through. Strength. And there's always been a good saying that, time heals things, and, hearts heal, but minds take longer, right? How do you get this through your mind to push through, and what challenges did you have after the housing and getting back here to find employment, or to, decide what you were going to do next that was going to be successful?
To be honest with you, I didn't know what else to do. It was basically fight or flight. Like it was just being tenacious and knowing that I had these two children who looked up to me, and they didn't ask to be born in this world, and I made that choice to make sure that their lives were better. And I love my mother, and my mother is an amazing human being, but I do remember as well, like growing up in that small little 700 square foot, one bedroom with my mom, and she was a fighter and did the very same thing and made sure that, I wanted for nothing, and taught me about quality and taught me about family and purpose, and I owe my strength to my mom.
Well, that's a great foundation to have, is that one main pillar that holds you up.
Right.
Right? Because if you don't have that, you could have been even further lost. Right?
Yeah.
You really could have been. So that's a really great thing you have. Now,
I met a woman who actually, who stayed. We were in Hawaii, and my friend was telling me this story about how they were in LA, and then she just wanted to live the dream life. And, that's where women feel like they have no other choices. They turn to substance abuse, they turn to, homelessness, they turn to all those different things, which is why I'll never judge any of those women. Just because I had the opportunity and the tenaciousness, it's hard. Yeah. It's not easy. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say that you were abused by somebody that you are supposed to be, like, you're
loved
forever.
By, and you've convinced everybody you were happy.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you this, and this is probably going to be a big, heavy question, and I want to know, for this main reason, is I know my sisters are in really great relationships, but I have a daughter. Mm-hmm. And as she gets older, what should I tell her, or what does she need to know? What tool does she need to know to talk to me, other than the fact that she already knows I love her like crazy, right? And I'll do whatever I can to protect her, but I can't always protect her. Everybody always says they're going to be there to protect somebody, but they can't.
Yeah.
Right? What do I need her to tell me that I can relay to her to always know that no matter how embarrassed or how ashamed she may feel, that she can say what to me? Mm-hmm. How does she say it?
I think for any parent relationship, just know that you're always there unconditionally without judgment. Yeah. Like, even my dad was wonderful, but he said to me, I knew there was nothing I could say. I saw it, but I knew there was nothing I could say, because you are so strong-willed that if I had told you, you would have just... And I did, I'm sure. I was in denial. And I was like, oh, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about, And he's like, I don't know, dear. But he always said, I'm here when you need me. Yeah. When the time comes, I'm always there without judgment. And, I wasn't really that, I was close to my dad, but wasn't. And just to know that. So I would say that's the best thing.
Keep it open.
Just keep it open, and don't have judgment for anyone.
Well, I hope people who are watching can see these signals and see that maybe they're oblivious to certain things, but know that they can say just what they need to say to get away from where they are, right? And for places like the Women and Children's Crisis Center here in Barrie.
Yeah.
All right, who I know you're a strong advocate for, and it's something I'm passionate about too, because I just imagine these women and children who sometimes in the middle of the night pack up with nothing, like nothing, a plastic bag full of clothes maybe, and they go. And they continue to be threatened even after that. How involved are you with that facility now?
Well, I'm a huge advocate for the Women and Children's Shelter with all the charity and philanthropy that I do. That's actually my mission, is to help other women. And I'm a firm believer that by sharing your story, it's still a healing process, you know, by you being able to share your story. But in all honesty, it doesn't have any power over me anymore.
Which is great. This is great.
Yeah.
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 So let me ask you this, then. What would you change? Obviously, there's a certain thing, and I don't want this to sound like a stupid question.
I know.
Because asking it almost sounds stupid, but there's a different reason, because you get it. What would you change? Or wouldn't you?
You know, I think about this often, and in fact, I ran into an old friend again when I was away, and I said I wouldn't change anything. And he just looked at me like, are you kidding me? And I said, because there's a purpose, and there's a reason why I'm standing with affirmation here today. And there's a reason why my children are thriving. I'm not just a survivor anymore, I'm thriving. And, you know, I do things in spite of, you know, what my backstory was. And, you know, now it's the challenge could be that I'm maybe a little bit too strong. So it's trying to find that happy balance.
Well, I'm glad you embrace that. Yeah. Because those are tools that you need.
Yeah.
You have the tools. And so that message right there was just a really almost obscure in a way, sort of a message that you didn't want to change anything, but it makes you who you are today on this moment, sitting here with me, enjoying this wonderful brisk weather in Canada. And I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm really glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm alive too.
Well, me too, as are many. And so let me turn this corner here then in your world, because you're an amazing person, and your incredible power and energy that you have, you exude so much love. It's so great. You're involved in so many charities. And I swear it's like watching a kid ask questions in school who knows all the answers. Your hand goes up at every charity auction like crazy.
It totally does.
I know. I need this. I don't know why would I need it. But you are such an advocate for giving back. Where do you find your strength to be able to do that all the time? What's the reward for you? Where do you see that?
I can look in the mirror and like the image that I see back and the reflection back, and know that I live on a vibration that may sound weird, but I live on a positive energy level, that I seek like-minded people who have the same energy as me. And what happens is when you work on that same caliber, you have sisters or brothers in the community who are of the same mindset, and the support system is incredible, as we're all here to do the common good, if you will.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not going away, and in fact, it's staggering, the statistics. You know, I'm not going to profess to know the statistics, but, you know, I think the more we talk about it, the more we have to talk about it, the more it's prevalent, the more stresses there are in life, the more that happens, we have to keep talking.
Well, there's incredible anxiety that has just skyrocketed. And men who don't know how to deal with anxiety, who feel that they lose control of their life, they try to find the one thing, I believe, in my opinion, that they're trying to keep stable and keep control of, is unfortunately their control over a partner, right? And there's sort of this mental disconnect too, where I notice men who, they want to be everything to every woman. They want to like the same music, they have to like the same food, and they have to have the same hobbies. But it's totally healthy for you to have friends who nurture those other hobbies and those other passions. You don't have to be everything all the time.
Right.
And that scares men, right? So they try to find that control. And that doesn't make it right. It's awful. There's insecurities. We are disconnected on, we count on social media for relationships. and it's just hard.
It's also, what I witnessed too is a double message and a different standard to men. And, you know, I witnessed this with my young son as well. And it's, you know, he's ashamed, I don't know why, for being sensitive. And he doesn't get that from me. Right? So I'm like, listen, it's a balance, but he would be teased at school for his sensitivity. And I'm like, you know what? You're going to make a great partner one day because you are a beautiful, empathetic soul.
Love that.
And I would like to think that that's due to my influence of trying to make him a strong partner, because I think that young boys get the wrong message that they need to be strong. Well, what is strong? What is that? Like, is that like not sharing your feelings? It's all about communication, and you know, we're working on things to be better, but it totally is a different standard between men and women.
It really is, and I think men have to let go of that machismo, right? There's this whole, I gotta be Stallone, I gotta be big tough guy, and they can't be honest. Mm-hmm. You know? Your ability to persevere through this is so welcome in a time when people need to hear you and need your voice. What is next for you in Shannon's world right now? What's next?
Well, right now we're getting through some charities for helping women who are homeless or at risk. Yeah. And that's always been my passion. And we are also working with programs to help empower youth in schools as well, because I believe that's where it starts. So that's where I am on the philanthropic part of my journey, and that gives me purpose.
If you had one message to share with everybody, men or women, I'm confident to be more women-based because I'd like to have a message for women to reach out and find strength. What is your message? What's your big message?
I'm pretty consistent in saying there is nothing wrong with putting yourself first. It is not an ego. That's what society wants us to believe. But self-love and self-care are everything. Yeah. And there's no way that I could have done what I did if I didn't love myself and think about what the future could have held, and think about what future that would have been for my kids, if there are kids involved. And it's not going to be easy, but leave.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not, is it?
No, financially, housing, everything. It is so hard, but there are resources there. But you have to, because if you put yourself, and this is what I asked myself, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where do I picture myself in 5 years? Yeah. And when that answer was dead.
Well, Shannon, thank you for taking the time to be here with me today.
Thanks.
And for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being my guest today,
Thanks.
Shannon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.